Good evening, everybody. This is Rob and Jordan, and we are back once again for Archangel Inc. Live, this time number 43. Jordan, how are you tonight?
I am great. I can't believe we're encroaching or coming up on 52. That's what I keep thinking about. Man,
I know.
once we do this 52 times, it'll be a full year. So
That's
yeah, I'm
true.
doing great.
Yeah.
Excited to talk about this stuff and see what we can share.
Absolutely. Yeah, me too. I have that same benchmark in mind too. It's like 52. Wow, that means we've been really at it for a while. So I'm very happy to be here. And tonight we're going to be talking about overcoming writer's block. So this is a cool topic, I think, and just move right along to opening thoughts. So writer's block is inevitable. Anybody who's attempted to write, who's been in that situation where you're trying to come across or trying to find inspiration for your writing, you have something in mind, maybe it's just not quite there. It's going to happen. So the question tonight and the goal of tonight is trying to address how can we manage it effectively when it happens. So any initial opening thoughts on this topic, Jordan?
No, I think definitely I think about it in a twofold kind of way. How can we manage it effectively when it happens? Also, what could we do to prevent it? I think that we're going to talk about that a little bit tonight too.
Yep.
So I think of thinking of prevention strategies so you're not always scared to go into a blank page. But yeah, certainly, like you already mentioned, it's inevitable. You're going to sit there sometimes. You're going to have the best laid plans in the entire world, and you're going to be ready to go, and you're just going to be stumped. What am I doing right now? So I think there are some things that we can do to share how to fight through that as well.
Yeah. I think it's a great topic. And again, the visual that I have is, you're in front of your keyboard and you've just got that cursor blinking and you're thinking, yeah, all right, where am I going to go? How am I going to start this off? What's going to happen? But I love your idea. Let's kind of think about prevention strategies and, capitalizing on whatever momentum that we have, using that ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure kind of idea, and approaching it that way. And then, okay, yeah, when it does happen, what can we do? How can we get around it? Are there any things that we have found that work effectively toward that? So I am good to just jump right in. So first section here, how to avoid writer's block. Important. Again, ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. First one, and we'll kind of go over each of these and then describe them a little bit in detail before we move on to the next. Have a plan and use an outline. So Jordan, thoughts on that?
Yeah, very, very important. Really, for me, I try to never go into a writing session not knowing what I'm already going to talk about. Now, there's certainly, once you get to a certain point, you're certainly going to be able to kind of build your thoughts, build your topic out. But really, you need just a starting place. Always have a starting place in mind. Have some notes. Of course, an outline is super important. We did a full video on this, on the process of outlining that. This can really help. So if you have something sitting next to you with a bunch of notes, it's much easier for me to get started if I already know what I'm working on for that day, or maybe maybe all of a sudden I get into writing and I'm not feeling it. That's the prevention strategy too. Okay, write a different chapter in your outline. What's something like what's the story you have on the on the top of mind today, right now? Maybe something you were thinking about earlier. Well, write that chapter instead, or write that blog post. Whatever you're writing, you can always be willing to shift. I think that's important too.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point. The way I think about planning and outlining is, okay, if I know that I have some sort of writing session coming up, can I take a look at it a little bit earlier and almost just have it on the back burner, let ideas start to percolate, see what might be coming to the surface for you, things that you're like, well, yeah, I can kind of talk about this. And, you just start manipulating these concepts in your mind, and then when it comes to writing them, hopefully you have a little bit of inspiration by the time you get started. You can kind of tap into that well because you've already laid the groundwork a little bit, and you're ready to get going. So great idea. And again, we have a full video on outlining, which we'll include in the link down below. But if you're interested in figuring out how you can outline and different strategies to take on that, then it's a topic that we have addressed as well. Moving on, schedule writing time for when you are most awake and productive. I think this is a good strategy in general for any sort of creative and productive activity that you might have to do. But what do you think on this, Jordan?
No, I really like this one because it works for me. I've heard it work for a lot of other people too. I think you have to treat it differently than other types of work.
Mhm.
So I think thinking about writing as I am going to get as focused as I can, because it takes a lot. If you've done any writing, it takes a lot of brain power. It takes a lot of focus to get to that point. So scheduling it out for times when you're going to be most awake and productive, that you can do that. Now, certainly, all of us have busy lives and stuff to do. There's always going to be emails and other stuff to answer. If you can, just schedule those for a different time, or schedule your writing time for a time when you're going to be in a writing mood. I think thinking about it like that, for me, I make the mistake a lot of, okay, I'm ready to work, and then I jump into something like emails that may not need like my 100% focus.
Right.
So I think thinking about that, thinking about when and where you do your tasks, a lot of people out there are probably already good at that. But when you think about writing specifically, that can be really helpful.
Yeah. So if somebody hasn't kind of figured that out yet, do you have any ideas or thoughts on how they can start to identify those productive times, those creative times?
I think it really depends on when you are that most productive. Now, a lot of gurus out there will share, hey, do it first thing in the morning. Me personally, I am much more awake and better in the afternoon after I've had some coffee. Once the day starts going, I'm more of a night owl. I'm more of a person that gets ramped up, harder to fall asleep, much rather sleep in. That's just kind of how I am. But other people I know, love to wake up early in the morning and do it first thing. The whole idea of, I think it was a Brian Tracy thing of eat the frog. Is that correct, Rob?
I'm not familiar. I don't remember.
I think it was, I'm not 100% on that. I know there was a eat the frog expression that like I said, I think it was Brian Tracy, but someone famous said that. If anyone knows out there, let us know.
Right.
But just the idea of eat the frog, do the most important thing. And I don't really necessarily remember why it was called eat the frog, but just as a memorable way of do the most important thing first. Right. So if you are writing a book and you have a deadline and you're working on a blog post and want to get that done, know that that's going to take a lot of energy and it's going to need your focus time. So do that thing first. Yep. Or you can get some other things out of the way if you are slowly waking up, or if you have just, I think once you start to get to know yourself and the writing process, I think with that, it does take just doing it. If you start and you get to a point where like, well, this isn't working, I keep hitting writer's block, I never know what to say or what to write, then switch your times around. Try it somewhere else. Maybe you have to leave your apartment. Maybe you want to write at Starbucks, after everyone else is asleep, if Starbucks is open late near you or something like that. I think trying different things is always a good way to go, and then seeing what's best for you.
Yeah. In terms of recommendations on figuring that out for yourself, like you said, Jordan, I think people will have different strategies and tactics and things that kind of make sense in their particular patterns and lifestyle and all of that. One of my recommendations, one of the things that I found helpful is when you do have a productive time, when you have a really good, productive day or task or something, just take a note. Sometimes even a physical note, if not just a mental note, can be helpful. Hey, I spent from 2 to 4:30 on this task. I really felt like I got some momentum, and just keep track of it and pay attention. Over time, you might find that, wow, that window is really effective. Or, man, actually, I really thought that the afternoons were most productive, but looking back at my notes, it seems like when I do stuff first thing in the morning or later at night, it works out better. So pay attention to that feedback and then act on it. You don't have to. You can always switch things up. So if you find that you're gravitating toward one thing and that's not working, change it, make it. Or make your schedule kind of fit around you. And again, just pay attention to your own feedback. There is no one right way. There are lots of different approaches and different suggestions, and give them all a fair shake. Again, I think a lot of the morning miracle kind of people, the people who advocate this most important task first time in the day, they have really strong arguments. Other people, argue, hey, you need to get some momentum. You need to build that up. Whatever is the case, then give yourself a chance to follow through or to pay attention to what you actually respond to and act accordingly. You don't have to fit yourself into somebody else's box. You can, start to figure out your own preferences. And and I think, again, just the bigger picture, schedule time for when you're most productive, whatever. That may take a little time. It may take you a month, several months, a year, a couple of years, even to figure out what your best time periods are, what your best way of operating will be, what sort of tasks that you like to do, what sort of things get you into a productive mindset and what sort of things pull you out. But again, just pay attention. Over time, you'll start to get more of a sense of what you're capable of and what resonates for you, and follow those tips. So don't feel like you have to make it perfect right now. Give it the best shot you can. There are these other prevention strategies that we'll be talking about, but if you have identified it, then obviously, as you said, Jordan, eat the frog, do the thing, whatever it is that you need to do, when you know that you're going to best be able to do it.
Yeah. And one final quick note with that, especially when it comes to writing a book and, specifically writer's block when writing a book, you definitely need to schedule time for the writing of the book. I think there are several people who maybe it takes a while to write it, maybe it takes time to fit in, but you can write a book pretty quick if you do prioritize it and if you do schedule time. Okay, every week at this time, even if it was every week, maybe every Sunday afternoon you spent 2 or 3 hours, or if it was something like that, you're going to write the book a lot faster than if it just sits on the shelf as something that you may want to do eventually, that you peck at and you work at a little bit. Because I think even if you are a morning person, you wake up in the morning, you still need to get some kind of momentum in that project and get it going, from day to day. That can be really helpful.
Yeah, I think that's another good point. If you're always just waiting for inspiration might always just be around the corner. So you might need to go around the corner yourself and meet it there.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I like that one. That's good.
Yeah. All right. Moving on. Make it a regular habit. The more you do it, the easier it becomes. So I'll share just a couple of thoughts on that. I think it's sort of in some ways self-evident, but it is true. There is power in momentum. When you are doing it continually, you start to get better at it. I mean, the best tip for becoming a better writer is to write more. A lot of very well-regarded writers say there's nothing better, whether that's a writing coach or a good editor or anything like that. Those are helpful potentially, but your best bet, your best investment is in yourself and in the habit. So the more you read, the more you write, the more you practice your craft and start to figure out what your strong suits are, what you're capable of, stretch yourself, expand your capacities, start to get into or sort of new arenas or new skill sets in your writing, the better off you're going to be. And so as you are trying to overcome writer's block, if you have a habit already in place, it's going to be easier to just know, hey, when I sit in front of this computer, when I get ready to do this thing, when I create my setting in this particular way, then the writing is going to happen because it's happened 1,000 times before and it's going to happen today. So you can, again, just cut off writer's block at the pass. Yep.
You got it.
Cool. All right. So moving on, read or review your research before and never start cold. So never start writing cold. Thoughts on that, Jordan?
No, I think this is super helpful and something I've been doing more of, reading books in either the topic or in sales and marketing or something related to writing and selling books and doing those types of things. I found it's really helpful for me to read and get my brain flowing before that. I mean, that plus a cup of coffee, I sit down and go to write and I'm like, okay, I know, like, hey, maybe I have something good to say this time, one of those things. I have something good to say and I'm actually going to be able to say it.
Right.
For me, doing that research, even if it's just reading a few blog posts or going through some of your notes already, looking at your outline, kind of seeing what your big picture is and what your book or blog post or whatever you're writing is going to be about, really is majorly helpful. I think the tip on never starting cold. Yeah, if you're starting cold, if you're just going to look at that blank cursor on the screen, that you're going to be looking at it.
Right. Yeah, I think it's sort of aspirational. When you start to just familiarize yourself or refamiliarize yourself with what's out there, you tap into, this is a recurring theme, but you tap into your why a little bit. You start to get inspired, find out what it is that you're trying to accomplish and speak to that. And, it can be really, really helpful. Hey, yeah, that's right. This one author, they do things like this and I kind of like that. And maybe I can incorporate some of that. Or, this other article that I read was talking about this particular topic. And I had a thought. I thought that maybe the author missed this one thing. And I have some thoughts there. So again, just doing that little bit of research, it can be aspirational and help you get into a sense of what you'd like and what you'd like your own writing to be and what you'd like to get out of it.
Yep.
Cool. All right. So this is another tip that I like. This is a small practical one, but it is finish your last sentence or finish your last session mid-sentence. So if you're completing a thought and you're ready to get going, just hit that backspace key a little bit and then leave your thought going mid-sentence. And it's just a little hack. So when you start writing again, you're picking it up in the middle of that thought. And sometimes it's just that little bit of momentum, even if it's finishing the last 5 words of that sentence, that can be enough to keep your fingers going on the keyboard or your pen writing, on your notepad, because you're putting yourself back into that frame of mind where you left off beforehand.
I really like that idea. I'm going to start trying to do that.
Cool. Yeah.
Because it's very, for me, and I'm guessing other people out there, I like to have things kind of tidied up in a bow before I finish them. Right. Sometimes I get in, like we've shared before, don't self-edit too much. I have a hard time not doing that. So yeah, not tying things up and finishing them is difficult. But yeah, I could see the advantages of that. That's definitely something to try.
Yeah, exactly. And again, these are all recommendations. None of these are set in stone. You don't have to do all of them, but it is a cool little tactic. And I do find the handful of times when I've used it, it is helpful. Oftentimes it'll be an email. I'll just kind of leave an email, get going and have it mid-sentence or, in the middle of a thought and come back. It's like, where was I? Oh yeah, I remember where I was. And it's easier to kind of slip right back into that. So feel free to give that a shot. And if you try it and like it, let us know. I think that would be cool to get a little sense of how that works for people. Moving on. Next one. Don't plan to make the first draft amazing. All right. So we've talked about this a lot, and don't, again, I mean, it's sort of self-explanatory. Don't plan to make it amazing. You don't have to be perfect coming out of the gate. If you're playing a sport, if you're going out and playing basketball, you don't have to make a half-court shot as your first shot. You can give yourself an easy layup. You can kind of just get things going, because there's always the editing and the refining process later. It's an iterative process. Each time you go through, there are other things that you change, that you can improve upon, that you can kind of chisel away. But when you're creating the first draft, you're just creating the skeleton. You're creating the outline. You're creating the guts here, and then you're really working on the refining process in subsequent rounds. Thoughts on any of that, Jordan?
Yeah, I think, you could word it another way. Plan to write a terrible first draft.
Yeah.
I think it's great advice, because, it's very easy to, again, self-edit and go through those things. But yeah, right. I found, for me, I can write a book a lot faster if I'm just going through it. I'm not going through and second guessing things. Like I'm getting this first draft done by this date, and I'm giving myself permission for the fact that it's going to be garbage. Right. And it's going to be like stuff moved around, but that's natural. It's so much easier to move stuff around than it is to, get it done. And getting it done is really that first goal. And it's a huge milestone, because once you get a book done, you can move stuff around and edit it. And that it really does start to come together at that point. Yep.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. All right. So those are some ideas for preventing writer's block. What can we do if it strikes? So Jordan, what to do if it strikes? First one. Big picture, what is the pain point? What is your why? Thoughts on that?
No, I think that's where, if you're thinking about physically sitting down at a computer, or if you're still writing notes at that point, maybe some of you are writing your first draft in pen form, and you're gonna have someone put it in a Word doc later. That's cool. But yeah, no matter what you're doing, no matter what the medium is, sitting down. You got to know, I think you really got to know why you're doing it. Like, why are you sitting? Is it to reach your audience in a different way? Is it to build your platform? Is it to tell your story? I think maybe you probably know that intrinsically into your core. But I think verbalizing it, maybe even writing it down on a card, on a note somewhere. People give advice to write a note on your mirror that you're in the bathroom, that you're looking at that. I am writing my book because because it's such a big task, and thinking about books specifically, it takes a lot of time and energy. You got to know why you're doing it.
Yep. Yeah. I love it. That's sometimes when I'm struggling to write something, again, even if it's just an email, a correspondence, something to a team member or a client or something, what am I trying to get at? If I'm fumbling over my words, if I'm, not quite sure how to phrase it just so, sometimes, I'll just put a little line underneath and start over, like, all right, if I was trying to communicate this to a friend, rather than whatever audience or individual that I'm sort of targeting in my head, I'm just trying to say it to somebody else. How would I say it? How would I describe it? How would I summarize it? Start there. Give yourself that opportunity to kind of take it from a different angle and take the 10,000 foot view rather than the on the ground view, because once you have that, then you can dive into the details. Then you can dive into the particulars and the nuances and the distinctions and the subtleties of whatever it is that you're trying to convey. Once you kind of have that big picture there, that's a strategy that I found can work really well. So again, that's the big picture. That's your why. That's what you're trying to get across, and then the particulars of how you're getting it across can start to flow in many cases more easily once you've established that and are able to kind of get over that hump.
Yep.
Cool. So another one, this is fun. Write gibberish if need be, just to start. So what do you mean by that, Jordan? How can I write gibberish?
I think it really is just the whole idea of just getting the keyboard going and just getting the words to fly out onto the page. Really just getting yourself that momentum. And I think, again, back to doing some of your research, getting those thoughts in mind, maybe if you truly are stuck and you're like, I cannot write this chapter, well, think of other ways that you can add quality content to your book. Maybe it's going through and adding a quote to each chapter. That's something that's helped me. I don't know what I'm trying to say here. Let me go do something practical that is actually kind of easy to do when you think about, you're just researching. I'm going to add some valuable quotes.
Right.
And then that's good too, because then they sit there a little bit. You get to think about them. Is that quote really a good fit for there? Do I really want to add a quote to every chapter?
Right.
Again, you're making a terrible first draft, so you can change all the quotes later. Yep. But just even just getting that one little thing done can give you momentum, and it's putting your head in the research game. You're reading words that are related to your field, and that can get you thinking, hey, this is the story I want to tell. This is what I'm trying to share here. So.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Related, this isn't exactly writing gibberish, but maybe it is. If you start writing or transcribing something from a related book, pick up a book, pull out a paragraph, something that you're maybe kind of in the same ballpark of what you're trying to say, write it down, and then respond to it. Again, this doesn't need to be in your own words, but just physically starting that typing process and getting those words going might make it easier for you to continue on with your own, and then if you give yourself permission to say, Jordan Ring, volcanic momentum, he wrote blah 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 blah. I was thinking about that, and here, I think he was right on this in this way, and not quite on this way, and when I'm approaching it, and that might be enough to again kind of get your juices flowing and give you a sort of alternate access point for finding your creativity, finding your muse, and getting some thoughts out there. Again, creating a terrible first draft, giving yourself a permission to have that. You can always cut even 100% of that out later, but chances are that if you start doing that, start accessing that creative, well inside of you, that at least some portion of that is going to persist and is going to lead to something that you want to keep when you get to the final draft.
Good deal.
Cool. All right, next one here. This is a physical or a physical hack, physical movement, jumping jacks, planks, take a walk, all sorts of different things that you can do to ready yourself physically to continue writing. Any experiences with this, Jordan?
Yeah, I mean, it's something I've been thinking about more and more recently, Rob, like how everything is connected. It's like I have all these things I want to do, but I can't do those things if I'm not feeling well, if I'm not exercising, if I'm not eating the right foods.
Right.
The words I'm typing are going to end up being completely gibberish if I don't have the right energy behind that. So yeah, even if you get stuck, it's definitely something you could do in the moment. Yeah, just get out, take a walk. If you're in Starbucks, walk around the park, walk around the building. I don't know if you really want to stand up and start doing push-ups in Starbucks or something. They might think you're crazy or, something like that. But you could maybe you could do some squats and get away with it. I don't know. Whatever can work in your situation just to get the blood flowing a little bit can make a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this can tie back into the preventative measures, as you talked about, Jordan. Just being physically active and healthy, taking care of yourself in that way can help when you actually get down to writing. If we do too much of one thing, whether that's physical work, physical labor, or mental work and mental labor, we can become a little bit unbalanced, and then it can be a little bit harder to kind of whip ourselves into shape and force ourselves to do something, if we're not feeling it, because maybe part of the reason we're not feeling it is we don't have that balance established yet. Maybe things are kind of a little bit off kilter in terms of our self-care. So prioritizing that, making sure that you are actually, getting some movement, going for walks, doing strength training, doing, whatever sport that you enjoy, all of that can be helpful for addressing it. And then again, in the moment, if you are staring at that blank cursor screen, then doing something like that can start getting that blood flow moving and help you out as well.
Yeah, I know, huge for me. I used to walk to a Barnes and Noble that was pretty close to where I used to live. And it was only like a 10-minute walk, but just that 10-minute walk. And I was like, hey, I'm going to go do a 3-hour writing session. This is what I plan to do this afternoon. Go there with that intention, and then have that walk in the beginning to start thinking a little bit about, hey, what do I want to do? Mostly what pastry do I want?
Right.
important things like that.
Big questions.
Yeah, also thinking about, okay, when I sit down, like I'm going to get started and I'm going to do this first and I'm going to write about this and whatnot. That, and again, prevention, but super helpful.
Yep, exactly. No, love it. All right, moving on. We've got save caffeine for writing time for an extra boost. So if you're a caffeine user and you find that it really helps you to focus and to be productive, and hey, I've been kind of struggling with this chapter, or I'm a little bit worried I might be running into some writer's block. I've been kind of, scraping the bottom of the barrel for inspiration. Use that caffeine, use those physical boosts judiciously and in a way that's going to maximize your opportunity there.
Yep.
Cool. Moving on. Avoid web browsing, social media, etc. So this is a big challenge for a lot of us, especially because we're connected. We have our phones. If we're writing, often we're in front of the computer. We have access to the internet. So it's like, well, let me just check my email real quick. Or what did anybody respond to that post on Facebook that I put up? Or have I gotten any shares on my Instagram page, or any of that? Try and limit that. Be mindful. Recognize that this can be a real-time sync, that 10 seconds here and 30 seconds there can all too readily lead into 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 2 hours of what the heck just happened? I lost, I totally lost track of time. So forcing yourself not to do that, at least during a writing session, can be really helpful. Sometimes you might feel a little bit bored and you're like, shucks, man, what am I going to do? I can't, I don't know what to say, but force yourself to do that. Tell yourself that you're not going to provide that easy out. And maybe it means that you literally just sit staring at your screen for a little bit, but at a certain point you might cross that threshold where it's less boring to start writing something than it is to, keep staring and not allow yourself onto Facebook or wherever. And that can be good. That could be exactly the breakthrough that you need in that writing session.
Yep. And I just thought of something while you were sharing that. I may have mentioned it before. I just recently read a book called Deep Work by Cal Newport. He really goes into a lot about this subject about focus, and really, it answers how to avoid writer's block, because he talks in the book about how do you get into those sessions where you're truly making some really good work. So definitely recommend that as a read. Cool. Great book. He says he has a lot in there about social media and all that, and I just love his thoughts and ideas on that. So.
Yeah, love it. Great resource. We will include that link down below as well. And moving on, next one. Curate and employ a writing specific playlist to help you focus. Thoughts on that, Jordan?
Yeah, I was just going to look. It's just, if you just look up if you have Spotify, you type in focus beats, I think is the one I like to use. But you can use a mix of different ones. I think for me, anything with lyrics, I have a harder time focusing. I'm going to do lyrics if I'm writing emails or doing some other tasks. But if I'm writing, I don't want to have anything distracting. So yeah, some people might use classical music or anything that you can kind of listen to with one part of your brain, but you're also not having to understand it, I guess. And I'm sure, there's a much more scientific term for that. Sure. But yeah, don't use lyrics, pick some focus beats.
Yeah, I find that as well. When I'm hearing and processing someone else's voice, it can be hard to access my own. Yep. And so, I think that's a great recommendation. I would add to that as well. When you're curating those playlists, when you're finding out kind of what works for you, try to avoid using them during non-writing times. If you find something that seems to click and work pretty well, then make sure that you're using it to really maximize your productive times, and not doing it while you're doing other tasks, while you're browsing or anything else, because you're building an association with a positive habit that you want to reproduce, and not with a generalized habit. So so that you know, hey, if I only listen to this when it's time to write, and I'm listening to it now, I guess it's time to write, rather than it's time to write or browse Facebook or, mess around online or clean my desk or, do any number of other tasks. So, having these task specific playlists or patterns can be really helpful to shift you into that appropriate mindset.
I really like that tip a lot. That's really good.
Cool. Awesome. All right, moving on. One of the last ones here. Oh, not quite the last one, but almost. Resort to bullet writing if you need to, or revise your outline. Thoughts on that?
No, I think, bullet writing, like we said, just write gibberish. If you just want to start typing notes, that can be super helpful. I've done that. Yeah, if you have points in your book where, hey, I know this is going to be a little list, go and write that first. And you don't have to write your content in order. It can be completely out of order. You can write the conclusion if you want. First, if you're like, hey, I know how I want to end this thing, well, go and write that. Exactly. You start to build it, and maybe when you get toward the end, you're gonna start leaving the really difficult pieces toward the end, but maybe you'll be a little bit better, a little bit kind of a well-oiled machine at that point. So don't be afraid to knock off the easy pickings first. Hey, I'm really knowledgeable in this one area in my book. I know what I'm talking about here. I'm gonna go write this chapter. The other ones will write themselves eventually. Right. But also I think a continual revision of your outline can be super helpful too. When your first outline is probably not going to be the one you're using toward the end, it's just going to start to build itself. So go back and check it out and revise it if you need to.
Yeah, I love that. I love that recommendation. One of the things that Hassan Osman has mentioned, when he blocks out time, he does time blocks rather than word count blocks. And he says, if the writing just isn't there, then I know I still have to focus. And I'm going to do something else. I'm going to work on my outline. I'm going to work on my research. I'm going to do something else. But I know that this time is sacred. This time is for my productive activity. It's the time that I'm dedicating to my craft. And similarly here, if the writing actually isn't happening, the outlining possibly can be. Or like you said, bullet points. Okay, I know I want to touch on this. Maybe I know that I need to do a little bit more research there, but I definitely want to cover, A, B, and C topics. So let me annotate them so I don't forget when the time comes to actually get down to it.
Yeah, no, I love that. I followed a similar strategy. I like the idea of time blocking, because then it gives you that freedom and that permission to do different things around your book, if it's really not working for you. So that's good. I like that.
Yeah. And the other thing I like about the time block strategy is if you do start to hit that flow state, it's kind of fun for me to feel like I'm almost rebelling against my own boundaries. If I say, I was only going to do this for a half hour, but by gosh, it's 45 minutes into it. And here I go, like, you can't stop me, Rob. How dare you?
Yeah,
and it's like you're aligning your, rebellious streak with your productive streak in a good way.
Yep. No, that's good.
All right. Moving on here. Just remember, not all writing sessions are equal. It's okay. It's going to be fine. You don't have to make everything perfect. Again, I think this really corresponds with that. Give yourself permission or an insistence even to write a terrible first draft. No, some writing sessions, just maybe the juice isn't quite flowing. That's fine. Keep with it. Do what you can. Make the best of it. But also don't beat yourself up too much about it, and don't use it as an excuse or a reason to not try again the next time and not maintain your positive habits and patterns going forward.
Yep. Yeah, I totally agree.
Cool.
That's good stuff.
Excellent. All right. So closing thoughts. If you are interested in avoiding writer's block, preventing writer's block, hopefully some of these tips have helped, but let us know. How do you deal with writer's block? Any thoughts, any experiences, any holdups? What sort of things have you struggled with? Any tips that we didn't mention here that you think, hey guys, I really have a lot of success doing, this. We'd love to hear about that. Any additional experience with any of this, please feel free to leave comments down below. We're always happy to hear. And if you have questions and want to know if we can explore any of those topics further, particular tips or tactics or strategies, then we're happy to do that. Anything else in closing you wanted to add, Jordan?
No, I was just going to reiterate what you said. I think I can speak for both of us when I say that we do like trying new things. So if you got all the way to the end of this video and you're like, yeah, I do all those things, or maybe you have other things and you're like, I never get writer's block. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear, hey, what's your process for that? What are you doing? Because that's awesome. Like if you can go and sit down and just crush some writing time, like, hey, we'd love to hear about it because we want to keep getting better too. And of course, I think that would help anyone that's watching this video. So yeah, let us know. We'd love to hear from you.
Awesome. Cool. Well, with that, Jordan, thank you so much, everybody. Like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what you liked, and any other topics that you're interested in, any questions that you have, and have a great rest of your evening. Take care, everybody.